I mean, my big thing for scouting, my personal views on scouting are about happiness. My great-grandfather once said that the greatest gift that a scout can give to the world is happiness. And so what I think of for scouting is the ability for scouts and leaders and associates is to get out there and be the happy scout, because that's what people remember. And they remember it positively. And they remember it as a joyful thing. And that is the message that scouts need to spread.
What's good, dear Dovies? A warm welcome to another entry into the Diary of Volunteers on Earth. I know it's been a while since the last English-speaking episode, mainly because most of my latest episodes were recorded in Austria with German-speaking people. And I've also been able to record some German-speaking episodes here since I am traveling in Sri Lanka. It's been almost, maybe even more than 6 weeks that I've been on this beautiful island of a country. But I've also had the opportunity to record a couple of episodes in English, this being one of them. Before I get into today's episode, let me just tell you a few things on so-called housekeeping. As you know, this is basically what I am at least trying to do for a living, or maybe you don't know since you're a first-time listener. But back in the end of 2022, I quit my job, I started this podcast, I started traveling basically full-time. So this is my main means of income. So if you can, please support me. Definitely make sure to hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel or like this, comment something. Also on Spotify, if you're listening, just give this podcast a rating. That would help me already immensely. And if you can afford it financially, please just click on the PayPal link to tip me, as I call it. Now back to this episode today, which I recorded with Dave Baden-Powell. And if, like me, you are a scout or a guide, then the name Baden-Powell certainly rings a bell to you, since Dave is the great-grandkid of our founding father, or the scout movement's founding father, I should say, Lord Robert Baden-Powell. And due to lineage, since 7 or 8 months, Dave has officially been Lord Baden-Powell. And this is what I'm talking to him about in this episode. I met him at the 10th National Sri Lankan Jamboree, where he was invited as basically a special guest. As you will hear in the podcast, he was a very busy man during that week, and so we only found time to meet very late in the day. I believe it was past midnight, which you will also see in the video. But nonetheless, we had a very interesting conversation about volunteering, about scouting, about what the scout and guide movement is trying to represent in the 21st century, and about what it's like to be called Lord Baden-Powell. So without further ado, I give you Dave. Enjoy.
Well, I'm here with Dave, and this is probably the latest I've ever recorded a podcast at the time of the day. I don't even know what time it is. I think it's past midnight.
I think it's well past midnight.
It's well past midnight. It's the last night of the Jamboree, the 10th Sri Lankan Jamboree. And we're here right next to the beach in the camp of the international service team. And first of all, I just wanted to thank you that you're taking the time to do this, because I know that you're a very busy man.
Thank you for inviting me. No one else does, so might as well be you.
I think that's a lie. Dave has been invited many, many times over the last week, I think.
Yeah. I've been used and abused for the last week.
Used and abused, I love it. Maybe for if anyone's listening who's not a scout, can you tell people why you are being used and abused?
In short, my great-grandfather started the scout movement. And through a whole lot of lineage and connections here and there, I wind up being Lord Baden-Powell, the 5th Baron of Gilwell. So that's about it. Everybody wants stuff, and I'm happy to give everybody stuff, because that's what I'm here for.
So in scout terms, I know you hate hearing this, but in scout terms, you're kind of royalty.
Yeah, you're right. I hate hearing that. No, some people consider me scouting royalty because of my relationship to my great-grandfather. But at the end of the day, I'm Dave.
Yeah, that's what you told me when I approached you at the beginning of this week.
Yeah.
And I started talking to you, and you're like, no, I'm just Dave. And I actually really appreciate that, and I think that shows a lot about your character. Also, it's not like you're letting this get to your head or anything like that. What is it like though because you didn't choose this, right?
No.
This just came to you and fell into your lap, basically. How is it to deal with that? Or how has it been over the last, I don't know, you said you've been officially Lord Baden-Powell for what, half a year, 9 months?
Yeah, about 7 or 8 months. Basically for me, I was born. That's all I really did to deserve this.
Yeah.
And my goal is to make that into something. So however I can find a way to serve scouting is my mission. That's what I have to do. You need to justify why people look at you this way. And for me, that means I have to do something good. I have to do something great. I have to make people feel good about themselves. I have to help out scouting. There are so many things that there are to do. And in the last 8 or 9 months, I've started doing them, and I'm learning how to do them. Sometimes I make mistakes and don't do things very well. But by and large, people have told me that what you're doing is okay, keep on doing it. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, really.
And you were involved with scouting before also, or is it something you took up?
No. I was a cub, then I was a scout, then I was a venturer. And the venturer unit that I was with fell apart. So I never got to complete my Queen Scout, which is like an award. And then I stopped scouting for a while, and I returned as a scout leader. And for my kids, my daughter Charlie, who's 17, my son Max, who's 14, I've been there as a scout leader for them. And then, of course, Charlie's moved on as a venturer to a venturer leader. But I'm glad that I have contributed to both of their journeys in scouting.
You just said that you find it to be somewhat of your responsibility to do something good, to do something great with what has happened to you, what has fallen into your lap, what you were kind of born into. How do you approach that? Like, did you set yourself certain goals when someone told you you are going to be Lord Baden-Powell, or how did that happen to be?
No.
This
comes with no rules.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, my dad passed before he was ever able to tell me anything about what I need to do, what I need to know, or anything like that. So one of the biggest things I've done in the last 8 months is try to figure that out. Mm-hmm. That means learning more about scouting, learning more about what people need from someone in my role, and then trying to fulfill it. I mean, like I said earlier, it's really easy to sit back and go, yeah, I'm Lord Baden-Powell, I don't have to do anything. But at the end of the day, unless you're willing to justify that and try to make it part of you, you're really just not helping anyone. And it's helping people that is critical.
Yeah. Can you talk, maybe people who might be tuning in, maybe scouts around the world, guides around the world, what is that process like to learn more about scouting, to figure out what your role is?
It's kind of tricky.
I bet.
Yeah, you don't just wake up and Google how to be a better scout guy. It's a matter of digging into libraries here, libraries there. I mean, some of the most basic things I've had to do is find my family pedigree. They call it pedigree when you've got a title. And look at what has happened there. Then you have to look at aspects of your family heritage. So non-scout related stuff, for example, the livery companies of London. So our family has been members there since around the 1500s or something like that. And you need to look at that. What do they have going on? What can you contribute? And then you kind of pull it back into contemporary Australia for me, and see how can we contribute in contemporary Australia. Because if you cast your net out, there are many different places that have many different requirements, many different wants. So somewhere like Sri Lanka, for example, wanted me to come here for their Jamboree, and so I came here for their Jamboree because they wanted it, and I was in a position to fulfill that need.
It means something to them, right?
Yeah,
You being here.
yeah. And they're stoked that I'm here, and I'm stoked that I'm here with them. It's like a mutual process of stoked, really. I went to the Philippines Jamboree in December, and once again it was like here. They asked me to come, and so I said, okay, I'm going to come along. And just like Sri Lanka, they were so stoked. And I met so many people, and I gave out so many badges, and I, shook so many hands that it's for them, it's awesome. But for me, it's also awesome. I mean, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't an ego boost. Having people wanting to shake your hand or wanting to get an autograph. But
it's something that you speak on that I think is a very essential part about volunteering in general. I think a lot of people, when they think about volunteering, they're thinking that they're just giving something, whereas the reality most of the time is that you're actually also receiving something back. It's never something that's like absolutely altruistic or something like that. This is kind of like a romantic illusion, maybe. And I think what you're just saying is speaking to that, right?
I think yes and no. I'm in a luxury position of being able to say, I get all this glory and stuff. But at the end of the day, before I was ever Lord Baden-Powell, I was volunteering.
Yeah, exactly.
And I volunteered because it met a need for people. Whether it was as simple as cooking snags at Bunnings. There'll be a translation for that somewhere.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Yeah. Or, doing car washes or fixing the hall, or like I did a lot of work on the hall. From that level, I got satisfaction.
Yeah.
Because you knew you were doing something good for the group, Scout group, and the hall, which the Scout group was dependent on. And then when I became Lord Baden-Powell, it was just like a bigger scale. Yeah. It was just a bigger ego boost than going down to the Scout Hall and getting a chainsaw and like... I love working with the Cheney. Cheney's great. Cheney's my bro.
At the beginning of this week, you were already telling me how much it means to you and how important it is to you to also talk to quote unquote outside sources or whatever about scouting and guiding at large.
Yep.
What do you think in 2024 and in the years to come, what is it that scouting and guiding is representing and also wants and should represent to the rest of the world?
Okay. That's a good question. I'm going to go over there now. But I think it's a tough one because what I think I should be expressing to the world outside of scouting is something more contemporary than a lot of aspects of scouting right now. So there's a perception of scouting as being out of date. You know, that we're stuck in the 1920s when BP cranked everything up. And so someone in my position is here to go, okay, this is us, this is now, this is what we're doing. I like to look or reference Bear Grylls.
Yeah.
Bear Grylls is freaking awesome.
Have you met him?
No, I really want to meet him.
Okay.
I really do.
Bear Grylls, if you're watching.
Bear Grylls, bring it. I really want to meet you, dude. I was going to a career, but it didn't happen. Anyway, long story short is that he is there as a reference person of scouting. And he does an incredible job showing it as a get out there action experience. And that's what nobody else does. And so my mission as a Baden-Powell is to keep up with that, you know, be on the same page. I mean, if it wasn't for my buggered shoulder, I'd be doing all the events this Jamboree. And because it's important for someone like me to be on the same page as everyone else amongst the activities, you know, pushing things to the limit, rather than just sitting back. And that's where Bear Grylls is a idol, I think is probably a word to describe an idol of mine in terms of the way he projects scouting. And I want to be able to project scouting in the same way. That's kind of about it.
So I think that's something very essential that you're speaking about, that scouting is scouting and guiding. I really always have to remind myself to include both, because we have two organizations, that we are trying to be idols and role models, like you were saying, to younger people, to meet each other on, we say the same eye level in German. I don't know if this is the correct translation for English, but there's no sort of hierarchy. It's basically you're meeting young adults, you're meeting youth, you're meeting children, but you're trying to meet them on the exact same level without trying to talk down upon them. Is that something that you feel scouting is doing well, or is that something that we still need to improve on? Maybe from your Australian perspective, because it's difficult to speak on an international perspective, but...
I think what you're describing is 110% accurate. I think that connection between kids and adults and, you know, like cubs and venturers or rovers or adults should be on a one-to-one basis. I mean, I think that's absolutely critical. Actually, it's the most important thing in scouting, to be honest. If we're not connecting with kids, what are we actually doing here?
Yeah.
And so that's, I mean, my goal is always to connect. Like, I walk around giving out badges, handshaking, taking selfies.
Signing papers or scarves.
Yep, exactly that. I've signed a lot of scarves.
Yeah, same.
With the kids.
Yeah.
You know, like adults will come up and they'll say, I'm a leader, and expect you to push everyone aside because they're a leader. But in actual fact, you're not there for them. You're there for the kids. And you always are and you always will be. Because that's what scouting is about. Whenever you come to an event like this, it's all about the kids.
Yeah.
And that's really important to remember. That's something I try to remember. Anytime I think I've lost the plot, or not lost the plot, but lost my focus, it always brings back to, you know, it's the kids.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I would wake up in the morning, I'd be a bit grumpy or whatever. I'd grab a handful of badges, my big texter, and go out and walk around and sign autographs and give out badges. And I like to think it makes the kids feel that they're connected.
Yeah.
You know, that people here are just going, oh, we care about you. And I think that's really important.
Let's move away a little bit from your role in international settings like this. What's your role like as a scout leader back home?
Oh, I am. I could list all the things. I'm like a deputy, junior, assistant.
All those important. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just like, if you could get like a scout leader any lower on the rung, that's me. Because that's how it is in Australia, though. It doesn't matter who you are. You know, you have your rung on the ladder, and that's kind of where you are. And I don't have the time to really push upstairs because I'm here. And then I'm in Philippines, and then I'm off to Canada, and then I'm off to Malaysia, and I love all that. And at my scout group, I'm there to organise, unit council meetings. What are we doing this month? What are we doing next month? Working out for a term. We're doing a swimming activity. Then we're going to go archery attack, and so it's at that level that I am back home. It's keeping the unit running with activities and making the kids making sure the kids are kind of pushing forwards to badges and all that sort of stuff. Implementing badge nights where we can do coursework towards badges. So at home, really simplistic, really just grassroots. I mean, that's all I've ever want to be as a scout. I'm a grassroots guy. When I come here, it's a different me.
Yeah.
It's me kind of stepping up and do a different role because that's the role that people want. But I love just being a grassroots guy at home.
Is it difficult for you to jump between those two, or is it actually nice for you to kind of like get a balance?
It's tricky. It goes both ways.
Okay.
There's no one, oh, I love this, oh, I love that. Because I'll be being a leader, and then every now and then I might go, oh, I miss, traveling to Sri Lanka or traveling to Malaysia or traveling to... but at the same time, that's not really me either. I like being at home with my wife and my children, and I have a job to do just like anybody else, and so it's a matter of balancing everything. Yep.
For, I don't know, let's say young venture scouts, guides, maybe rover scouts and guides that might be listening to this, what's a message that you would really like to get across to young adults listening to this?
The world is your oyster.
Okay.
Because I really believe that. I believe everybody in guides, venturers, scouts is setting themselves up to take what is there for them. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying grab it like opportunistically, but as an example, my daughter is just about to finish her Queen Scout in Australia, which is the highest achievement.
Subtle brag.
Yep, damn straight. I'm going to brag forever about that. Subtle, dodgy, confident comment is she's the only VP ever to get a Queen Scout.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm super proud about that.
As you should.
But someone like her is in the position to achieve. And that achievement doesn't just come to you. You have to grab that. Mm-hmm. You have to take it, make the most of it, and turn it into your achievement. And that's what applies to scouts, venturers, and rovers in general, is taking your initial building blocks, your starting point, and turning it into something awesome. Mm-hmm. Because it can be done by anybody. Well, I belittle it by saying that. But it is there and is your option to build upon. And that's what I think is one of the things that's most important about scouting, is that it lays down the framework for you to do all this cool stuff. Yeah. And in my daughter's case, it's Queen Scout. And then she will leave Venturers, become a rover, but she'll still have that Queen Scout. she'll go out into the workforce, she'll finish her university degree, she'll still have that Queen Scout. And it's something that she will carry with her forever, in a good way. And that is one of the biggest things that scouting can give people these days.
I find that really interesting because personally I've always been, in the past few days, I've described myself as a lazy scout. Like I was never really too much into all of those like awards and badges. I always kind of like did the bare minimum. But I think you're making a really good point for that sort of system that we have in scouting, that I feel like also maybe people who are not scout or guides are kind of like smiling about, and like it's a stereotype, you know. You have the Cubs and the Brownies with the big sachets, is that what you call
Sachets.
it? Yeah, sachets with all the badges on it. It's kind of like a stereotype, but there is, like you're just explaining, there is actually a merit to it. There's a reason why we have those sort of awards and badges, because it does give you also a certain level of confidence. It shows you that you've accomplished something. It shows you that you are able to do great things, and it's something that you can take with you for the rest of your life, essentially.
That's exactly it. In terms of the concept of the lazy scout, I don't buy into that.
No?
No, everyone is a scout.
Okay.
And
Thank you. Thank you for the reconciliation.
oh, there we go. It's, scouts are scouts. I mean, I know I focused a lot on Queen Scout and that sort of stuff, but that was a specific example around my daughter. There is no such thing as a lazy scout. There are scouts who do what is appropriate to them. And I believe that there should not be leaders who push them into one way or the other. You know, it's up to the kids to decide. I mean, some kids might decide to leave at the end of Scouts and never go to Ventures and never go to Rovers. It's all good, but the beauty of our organisation is flexibility. We have people from all, you know, creeds and backgrounds and all that sort of stuff. You know, we span the spectrum of LGBTQAI, and everyone is accepted along those lines. And we are an incredibly open organisation. So, based on that, there is no lazy scout.
If leaders are not supposed, I don't want to say supposed, but should maybe think twice about pushing a scout or a guide in some way, what is something that a leader should embody in your opinion in the world of scouting and guiding?
I don't think it's appropriate in any way or form to push a kid to do something they may not want to do. I think leaders are there to encourage and support. If a child wants to do a badge, cool, be there, support them. But there's no pushing someone to be a Queen Scout. There's no pushing someone to receive a VP award. It's something that someone will do in their own right. And leaders are there to support. That's our job. Me as a scout leader, my job is to support our guys going for the Australian Scout Award and try to get them through. They want to do this exercise, they want to do that exercise. My job is to support them and make sure that they can get to the point that they want to get. But we're not going to look at the kids that aren't on that trail and say, hey, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? It's up to them. Yeah. Because if you allow kids to do it, then they're going to grow in their own right. If you force it down their throats, they're not going to grow, and they're going to be wise to you. You know, kids are smart. They're going to know that you're saying, do this, do that, and then they're just going to go, nah, not going to do that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, definitely. I wanna go maybe a little bit more to the roots, not just of scouting and guiding, but of volunteering in general. I've been a scout since I'm 7 years old. I'm assuming that you've probably been a scout or like a cub from a very young age on, but you've stuck with it. Maybe that is also because you subconsciously or consciously felt that responsibility to stay with it, to be still a part of that organization. But would you say that there are some certain motors or engines within you that made you to continue volunteering, to continue contributing to an organization like scouting and guiding?
You're going to hate this answer. I joined Scouts at the age of 7, like you. Cubs. And then I joined Scouts. And then I joined Venturers. And then the Venturers troop folded.
Yep, like you said.
I didn't get back into scouting for a long time. And so I have this massive gap. And volunteering over that time frame amounted to looking after my daughter's needs at her guide group and that sort of stuff. I've got to say there's not a lot of volunteering in that time frame until I got back into Scouts.
Yeah.
I mean, the main stuff is like, going and donating blood every couple of months and all that sort of stuff. I love donating blood. It's awesome. I hate the needles, but I've got this, quite convenient little hole there that I just keep popping it into and squeezing out the blood donating blood. If your viewers or listeners are looking for something to volunteer with, donating blood is a really good thing to do.
I think that's a very good call to action.
Yep. Well, that's one thing. After scouting ended for me first time round, the thing that's gone all the way through has been donating blood, because I just think it's a really important thing to do. As a passion project, I have giving blood as like right at the top of the things that you can do, basically because of the amount of requirement that's been in my family through cancer and stuff. Yeah. But that's about it. Sorry, there's not more about me volunteering.
No, but I mean that's like one of the most essential things, right? And I think it is very worth raising those kind of things because they are very easily overlooked. Yeah. I mean,
well, in Australia, you can only donate blood, like whole blood, every 3 months, but you can donate plasma every 2 weeks. Which is great. That's important to remember because plasma is incredibly useful. Like in terms of my brother's treatment, he was consuming massive amounts of plasma. At the same time, he was receiving massive amounts of chemo. So it was kind of like if your viewers take anything away from this, donate blood.
It's like maybe you can't afford to invest more time into volunteering, but that's something that pretty much everyone can do. It takes maybe half an hour?
About 2 hours all up.
2 hours, like you said, every three months.
3 months for whole blood and every 2 weeks for plasma. And plasma is in critically short supply. If any of your listeners, viewers, are in Australia around Christmas time, with all the bushfires, lots of people wind up requiring plasma as part of because of their bushfire injuries, massive burns, and so that's one of the really big issues in Australia is getting enough plasma at bushfire season. You don't wish anything upon people, but it needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up with unless you have something that you still would like to get out there that I completely forgot to mention or completely ignored until now.
You've done a really good job, like, getting all the info out. My big thing for scouting, my personal views on scouting, are about happiness. My great grandfather once said that the greatest gift that a scout can give to the world is happiness. And so what I think of for scouting is the ability for scouts and leaders and associates and all that stuff is to get out there and be the happy scout. Because that's what people remember. And they remember it positively. And they remember it as a joyful thing. And that is the message that scouts need to spread. I mean, a lot of us already do it, I know. And we don't really need anyone like me to say, you should do it. But it's nice to have that as a mindset that people can pick up on. And if a scout leader at this troop passes it down to 6 or 7 scouts, and they get out there and they're happy and they're joyful and they appreciate life, and then there's another group, it just spreads. And that sort of thing spreading is something I would like to be responsible for in scouting. I mean, all my speeches I've got are all about spreading joy and having fun.
It's a simple message, but I think a very effective one.
I think so. I like to think so.
Yeah.
I've got to figure out if I can deliver it well enough to see if there's any changes. But yeah, it's what I want my message to be. You know, aside from being as cool as Bear Grylls, but you know. But it's that's kind of it. It's
nice. I love that, and I can just tell you from my own perspective, it's something that has carried me through my career of scouting for sure. That in my, I want to say it's the song that like the song of my scout group. I believe it is, but there's a line that says something along the lines that we always have a song or a whistle on our lips, or we're always singing a song and have a whistle on our lips. And for me, that's kind of like the embodiment of happiness. Is like just today on the bus when we were going to all these places, we were singing and dancing on the bus, just being joyful. And I think this is what scouts and guides are really, really good at. As far as I can tell from all my experiences, people out there are doing a really good job at exactly what you think is the most important thing about scouting and guiding.
I think so.
Yeah.
My takeaway that I've always just say to myself is bring joy.
Yeah.
So if everybody says bring joy, it might mean one thing, it might mean another, but bring joy, and then just bring it.
Yeah.
From what you're saying, I think we're on the same wavelength there.
Yeah, me too.
And I don't understand how anybody couldn't be on the wavelength of bringing joy and happiness. I think it's a fairly global feeling, global essence, global aspect, global. It's out there for all of us to achieve.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take much. It really doesn't. Just a matter of waking up in the morning and saying, hey, how's it going? You good? I'm good. I mean, that's what I do in the morning. I wake up and I just say, hey, you're going to be happy today. And then make it happen, because once you've said it, you got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. I have 2 questions at the end of this podcast that I ask everyone. The first one is, you couldn't write a letter to anyone dead or alive, fictional, non-fictional. Who would you write a letter to, and what would roughly be the content of that letter?
It would be David Bowie.
Okay.
Just because David Bowie is so rad. And It would be about reconsidering his thin white duke era and sticking with the Berlin era. That's like really nerd Bowie.
nerd music stuff. But
Yeah, nerd Bowie. The other would be there are so many people you could write letters to. It's such a tricky question, but yeah, I would guess Bowie in that I can't think of anything else.
Okay, I'll take it.
Yeah.
And the second one is, what's your favorite bird?
Favorite bird? A kiwi.
Kiwi?
Yep. Even though I'm not from New Zealand, I love a kiwi.
Yeah.
We went there last year, saw kiwis, and just went, they are the coolest bird in the world. You should have asked me the coolest marsupial, because I could have just...
What's your favorite marsupial?
Quokka.
Quokka.
Quokkas are the best.
How can you not love quokkas? They're the happiness in an animal. They are just joy in a little furry ball.
If you were going to turn a marsupial into a scout, it'd be a quokka. It'd be great. Those little buggers, you get there and in the ground next to them and you're like selfieing and they're looking at the camera because they know how to take a selfie.
Yeah, they do.
And they're just, they're so cool. Quokka. Forget the bird. Let's go with the quokka.
Nice. Rottnest Island, yeah. Awesome. Well, Dave, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you doing this after such a long day and week and being busy most of the time, being asked for, like you said, thousands of signatures and swapping badges. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me on.
Of course.
It's been great.
Thank you so much.
I love your podcast. More people should watch it.
Thank you. Cheers. All right. See you guys.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. This was the episode with Dave Baden-Powell, straight out of Sri Lanka. And I've got not much more to say. I hope that you found it as interesting as I did. Like I said, sorry for the visuals. Oh, that's a little bug that just landed there on my shoulder. Anyways. And there it goes. So this is what a kiwi sounds like. And I don't mean New Zealand people, I mean the bird. And although, as far as I remember, they don't really make many sounds, but let's just put in a picture of them anyways. This is what a quokka sounds like.
Oh, what's that? Oh, a little baby scared the other one.
So again, thank you. Again, if you can, click on the link in PayPal underneath this video or in the show notes and support me if you can afford it. Hit the share button, share with your scout and guide friends, click like, subscribe, and all of that stuff. Hopefully until next time, maybe I've caught your attention and you find this podcast to be interesting. It's basically all about volunteering. It's called The Diary of Volunteers on Earth. Until next time, much peace, much love, much dove. Jakob.